We've got 24 days left until NFL kickoff, and I got to get some drafts in an Underdog's Best Ball Mania IV, $3 million to first place, of course, in this one. I am already in a draft room waiting. I got some preseason takes to get off. We got to see how players are falling. Got some good news. Fingers crossed right before the stream. Kendre Miller looking like he'll be back from his knee sprain in 1 to 2 weeks, but we are looking to fill a couple spots here and here. So you want to get 3 more people into this room. Join me again, playing Underdog. And let me pull up the little banner here. No, not this banner. Wait. Hold on. Wrong banner. Use the promo code SPLASH, of course, to double your deposit up to $100 on Underdog. Great way to get 8 entries into Best Ball Mania instead of the 4 you'd be getting with your own $100. And of course, you can deposit whatever amount you want up to $100 and they will match it for you. We have filled the room here, so I don't have to worry anymore in the relatively non-influential 8 hole in this one. Next to a fellow Chris Nothing here will be drafting alongside me. We'll see if he is kind to me here. I feel like we got cordoned off here with the 3 badges. They have segregated us away from everybody else. Shout out to the chat as well. Your hat. No, it's not a hat day. It's a bun day today. You're privileged, Lucky 7, to be getting a bun day. Okay. I think Lucky 7 might be broken brained because of me not wearing a hat. They're all right next to me. I have them. But today I do sometimes put my hair up, and today was one of those days that I put my hair up to work out at 9 a.m. and have kept it up since. So you're privileged again to be getting the only man bun left. I think now that Kyle Dvorak has changed his hair, I believe I'm the only man bun left in fantasy sports, though. Does Bindles have one? I'm doing a stream with Bindles after this one. I feel like Bindles might have a man bun. Man, yesterday I accidentally entered 2 BBM4s at the same time on my phone. Total chaos. Lineup sucked. I do think BBM doing 2 in a row is not that difficult, but it does take a little bit of training to get your brain there. As we've talked about, doing 2 together on DraftKings is a nightmare because the notifications don't line up and all that. But with Underdog, at least you'll get your notification. You can go hit that banner right away, click over, make your pick. That's always a positive thing. So I think that's why I don't mind them quite as much. Just stay on your active screen is what I would say. So you could always see how many picks away you are in each draft. GM, everyone, what's good, Spags? How are we feeling about AR after his preseason game? So I think we kind of landed in no man's land with how he performed in that one, where he had the pick. The team was very quick to go publicly, which maybe isn't the best sign. Very quick to go publicly and say, like, hey, it's not his fault. Like, it was a misread by Isaiah McKenzie. Isaiah McKenzie gave a quote saying, oh, that was my bad. I got yelled at on the sideline or whatever by Reggie Wayne because he didn't make the right read on that one and left AR hanging. They didn't want this guy to throw a pick on that first drive. So that's a positive, I guess, and a negative too, that they know that he is a guy maybe prone to throw picks at a perhaps slightly higher than league average. But that last drive he had, I mean, the pass right to Alec Pierce, I thought was as good as you're going to get. Moving the team downfield, getting red zone carries as well, had the one comeback after he almost got it inside the 5-yard line. So for me, I think that was about as good of a debut as you could have hoped for, going against the Bills defense that wasn't going with starters, but is a good team. Let's see what we have on the clock here. Of course. So one of those drafts where the receivers are going. It doesn't feel like an avalanche room. I'm going to use this spot to get my shares of Bijan up. That is a player that I have believed in a lot here. I've mentioned on the stream, if you're doing your season-long leagues at home or with your office or whatever, I think that going with Bijan or Nick Chubb are the 2 best players you can go with in that kind of format. He has your anchor RB, but also guys in Underdog too, where I have questions about McCaffrey, the usage he'll get with guys like Elijah Mitchell there when he's back healthy again, guys like Jordan Mason, guys like even TDP who got a lot of work in the preseason. Those guys maybe take a little bit of work away from McCaffrey just to keep him healthy and ready to go when the Niners need it in the playoffs. I think that's a possibility. Whereas Bijan, you know he's going to get out there. You know he's going to give you at least what Tyler Algier gave you last year. And Algier was very good, obviously in a much lower ADP. And Nick Chubb, I've talked about my belief in Cleveland just being better this year. Nick Chubb being really the only guy left in that offense who can maybe do a little bit of everything. Jerome Ford being hurt doesn't hurt Nick Chubb at all. If anything, means that there actually might be a shot that he gets some pass game work that he might not have gotten otherwise. So that's my reasons why I'm willing to take Bijan here, but also, again, we'll plant the flags for Bijan and Nick Chubb. Am I doing 2 drafts? I'll only be doing 1 on the stream today because I go over to check out our boy Bindles' channel. I promised I would do a stream with him, and after blowing him off last week, and he actually had a job interview too, so it worked out okay. Sorry, Bindles, if that was not supposed to be revealed publicly. Either way, though, we'll be going over to stream with Bindles. So yes, technically, we'll be doing 2 drafts in a row. We'll be supporting one of our guys in our community here, Bindles, on his channel, and I'll retweet the link that he posted as well right before we go into that one too. Sup, bitches, respectfully. All right, there we go. Glad we're getting the usual post-Pete show filing. I know ADP chasing is going on right now, so I appreciate you guys, as always, spending time with me. And if you can't spend time with me, no worries. We do 5 days a week of drafts here on Splash Play, so there's always room to get a little more of me into your world. God, I hated that I said that out loud. Devontae Adams, though, I think it feels like a good pick in this range. Knee issue or calf injury, rather, I guess is it. A lower leg injury is the way that it's been reported before that I've seen. So that's why I said knee, but it's a calf issue. Calf strain's never a great thing, but a guy like Devontae Adams, you are getting, potential wide receiver 1 production at a spot right now where he is not anywhere close to being drafted that way. So Devontae Adams, I think if you don't take a running back, or you do take a running back in the first round, rather, getting Devontae as your first wide receiver still feels pretty good. RB Piggy Room. Yes, it is an RB Piggy Room. It is indeed, honestly, a mix, though, because it felt like receiver, like me not having Diggs at 8. I feel like that is a safety blankie for me where I often get Diggs at the 8th spot. But instead, weird pockets so far. And again, not a lot of badges in here. We are all cordoned off into our one area. So I do think there could be some weird things in the other spots. And Jeremy, of course, the icon does, and the 10 hole does often draft like a badge drafter. Amon-Ra St. Brown getting steamed up lately by Badge Bros. I think he should be. I mean, I've mentioned that I think he is in play to be the wide receiver 1 overall this year. He's not likely to pass Justin Jefferson in my eyes, but if there is a world where perhaps KJ Osborne, Jordan Addison, TJ Hawkinson pull a little bit more work away, or even more checkdowns for a guy like Alex Madison, I think that's something that maybe that gives a window for a guy like Amon-Ra to be the wide receiver 1. But he's looked great in camp. We're entering year 3. Year 3 is a big jump. Obviously, year 2 is going to be probably the biggest jump, but year 2 and 3 for a guy at a skill position, I think, is something where that's when they really start to find their ceiling. So to me, going to Amon-Ra St. Brown as a guy for pure upside at the end of the first round has always been a good move. And honestly, I kind of get taking him ahead of AJ Brown. You're getting not as good of an offense on paper, but you are getting a player who's more central to that offense's success. So that's where I think Amon-Ra is a good pick. And I will still, again, stand for, I think you can get that full Detroit stack if you can line it up right. Get Amon-Ra, get Gibbs, get Laporta. And then if you want to get Jameson Williams, you can. But I think it's those 3 with Goff, and you have a really good stack, I think, that works out pretty well ADP-wise. GLGL Spags. Love your bro, dog. Appreciate you, OG1 Kenobi, very much. All right, we're on the clock. Let's see what we can do here. So we have Atlanta. I don't think we need to do anything too crazy here. Though the idea did enter my brain of, do we reach for DJ Moore and get ahead of it and get some more with Fields, with Robinson? But I don't think that's the move. I think this is going to be an Amari Cooper team. Actually, yeah, this is going to be an Amari Cooper team. I don't think there's any reason to take Josh Jacobs at ADP. Ramondre, I would have taken perhaps if I had gotten Diggs there for the week 17 correlation. But Ramondre, I've talked about, like, not my favorite running back overall, just where we got him last year, I think made a lot of sense. We're getting him this year, I think, is a really big bet on him maintaining that volume and being better with it. I'm not sure that's going to be the case. Either way, though, Ramondre, I think, did make sense with having Bijan and just being a little bit of a wide receiver avalanche room. Breece Hall, though, DC Fantasy taking him a little bit early. Breece Hall should be okay to go when things matter in the NFL season, but still a guy has not shown out on the field yet. Did see him some nice plays, I guess, overall from Izzy Abanikanda. 1 touchdown at least. Did see Michael Carter doing some stuff recently. Those are things so far this preseason that I think, not boding well necessarily for those guys in terms of taking anything away from Breece Hall, but you would like to see Breece, I think, get out there to have some comfort, or at least I think the drafters overall would. Guys like DC Fantasy is a little bit sharper, I think, will want to take the risk a little bit on Breece Hall for that upside. Mr. Spin, what's the target stack? It is not a Spag stack day. We're just doing a random draft here, a random kick the cobwebs off draft for Monday. And let's make the pick here. So we do have the bet on Atlanta. We do have the bet. And I just don't think Justin Fields is coming back at 56 at this point. But DJ Moore showed enough that maybe we reach for him here. I think that Moore was so good in that preseason game that he is going to get steamed up to the 30s. For me, that is a cause for concern because I do not have enough DJ Moore overall. He was a guy that was part of my finalist team last year in BBM, and I didn't have the best feelings coming in for him overall. I'm at 4.5% DJ Moore overall. Does that include... at 6% in BBM. All right. So not as far off on DJ Moore. I think if you're going to buy DJ Moore, I think you do it now and then just account for the fact that he's probably coming up. I think to this Amari Cooper, Debo range. People have always had a fascination with DJ Moore, especially in the fantasy community. And I think when you see him breaking big plays, like that wasn't high air yards plays, that wasn't downfield by Justin Fields. That was DJ Moore getting well schemed and taking it to the house. I think that's something that's going to drive him up even more because there is that previous love. So if you want to get your 8%, I think you just grab him now. And I think the only way he probably doesn't keep ascending would be if he somehow hurts himself. And there's reports of that. But obviously, we're never drafting that way. Worried about that. Burrow and Fields probably won't come back. We'll see. I agree. I think it seems pretty likely, but not a bad deal. So Quaff today. Thank you. Thank you. This is my usual hairstyle. I get to throw it up and not worry about it. But honestly, long hair has been stressful. As it gets longer, and somebody like Katie might know. Some of you guys who have not grown your hair out probably won't know because I didn't know. Split ends and stuff. Like I've always had okay hair, decent thickness and whatever, high key thick hair. But you get split ends and you got to cut them, or you have to have the hairstylist cuts them. I cut mostly at home these days because it is easier to do that. But yeah, split ends and shit. I have to put on a hair mask that my wife gives me. So I'm. It takes work. It takes work to look this beautiful, guys. It may not look like it. It may look like this is effortless shit, but no. I have to work hard to look like the garbage I do. DJ Moore has standalone value. If he can survive Matt Rule, he can survive any offensive scheme. I suppose that's true. I don't know about the standalone value thing because a bet on DJ Moore is kind of inherently a bet on Justin Fields taking a leap. There's a thing I talked about on Friday. I don't think I finished making the point. There was a PFF article talking about EPA per target numbers, or EPA per dropback numbers for QB. And historically, in terms of the curve, the biggest leap, fuck yeah. Justin Fields at, 56? All right, this draft is working out, guys. So the team so far, Fields, Bijan, Devontae Adams, Amari Cooper, DJ Moore. Had to reach a little bit for DJ Moore. It sucks because earlier in draft periods, he was going a little bit cheaper and you could get this pairing a little more easily, but I think there's more positive information there. So the EPA per dropback numbers that PFF wrote an article about, which I think is still on their homepage. Basically, it's like an enormous bell curve, and every time a QB gets to year 3, that's been a lot of growth in terms of how they're doing in terms of the EPA per dropback. Obviously, Justin Fields is going to be the QB that applies to the most as a guy who has not had a lot of success passing the ball. Last year, I believe he was really bad in terms of DVOA. Fields was negative 0.35 EPA per dropback and a negative 35% DVOA. So about as bad as you can get as a passer. But if he gets to even like a 0 DVOA, if he just gets to average, or he gets to even somehow a positive EPA per dropback number, he's the kind of guy that could actually be QB1 and do it effortlessly. So I think with Fields, seeing it on the field, I think was an important thing for me. But I think really he showed enough growth last year. The numbers didn't look great on the season-long metric, but I do think the kind of guy that really should have been more of a priority for me than I think he has been. And now I feel the comfort that I need to kind of spam a little bit down the home stretch. What a start. Nice. They both made it back. Look, sometimes you got to take your shots. But at this point in drafts, I'm willing to let the room come to me a little bit more. I think when we had the earlier parts of the draft where I felt like there were vulnerabilities, I kind of forced my guys in more. But now it's trying to let the rooms come to me and give me some okay stuff. And that worked out, at least in that one spot. All right, so we got Atlanta. All right, so 1-1-3-0 builds so far. Definitely would like to get more receivers in. Feel like we can maybe push the advantage at another position. It would be a fun team. Team where you get 2 really mobile QBs going along. A team where you really get a guy who's on the upswing and a guy who's a little bit older, a little bit more of a veteran, Justin Fields. I think let's plant the flag for a Fields AR team. Let's do that. Maybe he could learn some things by being in the same locker room here in my best Ball Mania 4 team, but we'll take Michael Pittman and the chance that we can get some AR shares. Pittman, too, I think, didn't have, the quite as good of a play as Pierce did in terms of getting open downfield. Obviously, Pierce dropping that, not a great thing. But I do think Pittman being involved as much as he was looks pretty good. I also think I'm ready to victory lap George Pickens already, by the way. I know people, I think Gretsch, who I think is very sharp at this stuff, too, is like, oh, people are going to talk about this Pickens play at a bad angle by a safety, but what about Deontay Johnson's 3 targets? And it's like, okay, cool. Deontay Johnson can be a fine boundary receiver. To be able to break a play like George Pickens in that game, that was not in his bag last year. Like, he was a pure fade guy, getting the ball, running the go route, catching it up in the air, high pointing it, and that was it. And he would just fall down. And that was the kind of play that'd be it. Here, he broke a 40-yard touchdown almost just by juking a guy out, by getting into space. Like, that's the thing you want to see from Pickens. And I think he showed it there more than Deontay showing anything new. Deontay showed the same shit we knew he could do. He can get open at 10 yards, he get open at 7 yards. Like, he's going to do that a lot. But boy, Pickens, man, oof. Pickens, that play, I think, was boding really well. And also the camp reports for Pickens too, boding really well. Other things I would have liked to have seen this weekend, would have liked to have seen a nice big play connected with Christian Watson and Love. That was the one thing that got missed in that game. Romeo Doubs gets a touchdown. I do think that Watson's going to be more the red zone threat when the season happens. But besides that, I feel good about the AR preseason parts. Wish that Kendre Miller didn't get hurt. Do think he needs to get out there and show that he deserves an early season role. Still doesn't change the week 17 part for Kendre Miller, but I do think that's one I would have liked to have seen. Would have liked to have seen the Watson big play. I think that would be another one too that would drive up his ADP enough where I don't have to worry about ever reaching at the one spot for Jefferson and Watson as a correlation. Trying to think what else. Don't worry about the Philly backfield. I think I feel pretty good about that one as well. Definitely think that Gainwell certainly is in position to get snaps, but it really feels like it's going to be a committee backfield and one that probably benefits DeAndre Swift the least. So I think that's one to me where, to me, Rashad Penny being out there getting that much work. Yeah, Trey Sermon's getting that work too, but I think they're trying to see if Trey Sermon deserves a roster spot or if they need to try to practice squad him again, or if maybe they just let him go. I think is probably where they are with him. Whereas Penny, seems like the base back formation guy, or the base formation back rather, a guy who's going to be out there and creating value for himself each time he touches the ball. Swift, I don't know why he was so low used. I think that's just a bad sign for him, but let's see what we can do here. Would have liked to have gotten Fields coming back to me safely. That's not the case. We do have Deshaun, but obviously would like to build AR. I think we're just going to take a falling Dallas Goedert. Very nice camp from Dallas Goedert. As I've mentioned in here, Dallas Goedert, the best tight end last year in terms of EPA per target numbers. So he's been a guy that I've liked a lot, but I think I can increase my Dallas Goedert bags, especially for people taking Waller higher. I think he's kind of a leverage point against people starting to drive some of these guys up a little bit. Pickens could be him while Deontay is extremely consistent. I think that's what it is. I mean, I've talked about it here where I don't love Deontay. I think there's some really worrisome metrics for him in terms of just how bad he was last year. He should regress closer to average this year. Absolutely. But I do think with Deontay, it's like, we know what he is. He is a boundary kind of receiver who can do some things in terms of getting open in that intermediate space, but he's not a guy that's necessarily going to get downfield and be used in creative ways. Whereas Pickens, they're moving to the slot. They're giving him some reps. And he's also been a high ADOT guy who's going to give you the big boom bust plays that you really want in best ball. I think if you're looking for the floor, take Deontay. If you're looking for the ceiling, I think you want George Pickens. And obviously in best ball, I am exclusively a ceiling chaser here. Best running back in Philly is Hurts. The best running back is Rashad Penny, based on what he's put on paper so far. But Hurts, obviously, the best value in terms of the position if you're going to compare it to everybody else. So I think that's not invalid. But man, really would have a little more respect on Rashad Penny's name. All right, so we have a 1-1-4-1, Fields, Bijan, Devontae, Amari Cooper, DJ Moore, Michael Pittman, and Dallas Goedert. So nothing here aligning too crazily. Does feel like a little bit of a dip on Rachaad White. All right, we'll take another young running back in Rachaad White. Might have sabotaged myself on getting AR, but we'll see. We'll see what comes back the other way. Possible he falls. QBs have fallen a little bit in this room so far, but I think going to be tough to get AR in this build now. We'll find out. Shout out to everybody hanging out. By the way, of course, going to be doing 5 days a week of drafts here until the NFL season starts. So please make sure to subscribe down below. Hit the like button. Hitting the like button helps us get seen by more people. Basically helps increase the impressions of the thumbnail on YouTube. That is why people ask for likes and all that stuff. But help us out here. When you give the more likes to this video, get seen by more people, which helps me maybe make some money off of this. So that's always the goal here. Maybe making a fractional amount of money relative to the time put in. Morning, Spags Reno. It's the afternoon here, Charles, but I appreciate it. Is Charles a West Coast guy? That's a question I have to ask now. But yeah, I've been doing a lot. I had a very productive weekend. As I mentioned, was on baby duty all weekend. So the boy fell in love with Bluey and learned how to request Bluey to the point that it really established how damaging screen time is for a little child. But every time a Bluey episode would end, he would come over and go, and then I'd be like, no, like you got to say Bluey. And then he'd say, Bluey. And that was how our weekend went for at least a portion of it. But we survived. The child is alive. I'm barely alive, but we did it. And my hair looks okay. So these are all the things that we survived this weekend. And he also watched a little bit of AR's debut. I forced him to watch it, just going, hey, here's how we're going to play quarterback when you're a child. When you're a 6'4", 240-pound man who runs a 4.40, this is what you're going to do. Central time zone, just not a morning person. There you go. I feel like there's more people in Central time who play fantasy sports than anything else. I know all the Stochastic team, a lot of them based in the Midwest there, a lot of Central time, but definitely feel like Central time, if you're going to be playing sports, feel like a lot of people have advocated for it being the best time zone to be playing DFS in particular. I love the West Coast. There was nothing better to be on the West Coast where it's like you get your lineups in, you get to watch all the games, you get to have some time afterwards because the games end and you know how you did, and you can watch another show with your partner or something else. West Coast timing, I think, is the best by like a wide margin, though. Central time zone superiority. Look, I'm glad that you guys are feeling special about yourselves in your time zone. After I think I've made the case here. Pacific time zone also great too, because if your lineups are dead, you can just go outside, go do something else. The shitty part is football season, where you got to wake up at like 7 to start doing lineups. That's not my fave, but still. Talk a little bit about Zach Charbonnet, by the way, on the Friday stream. He is a guy that I think should really benefit from how he looked in the preseason. Maybe not the usage, maybe not what he put on paper, but man, he just ran in a way that if you were to tell me that guy, oh, he hurt his shoulder a couple weeks ago, I'd be like, no fucking chance with the way that he was laying booms on people. Zach Charbonnet, the bags that I have for him, I think I'm feeling better about those than any of the rookie RBs that I've kind of personally steamed up this offseason. West Coast Elite, agreed. I miss it. Would love to get back there. But boy, tell you what, West Coast Elite, and you pay a price for that if you try to buy a house there. Absolutely do that. Tua goes. AR is still here. A little bit of a value on Michael Thomas, which would make sense. But I don't care. Did you see this guy play adequately on Saturday? Because I sure did. AR and Justin Fields, no conflicting bye weeks. Get the jersey out. Oh, boy. What a day here. Sorry, Underdog shirt. But the AR, the jersey name is more important right now. And honestly, I need to draft more AR down the home stretch because my bags have gotten lighter as we've gone. Sharp's a better value than Bigsby. I think Charbonnet has a better route to getting starter reps pretty fast. So I guess it's close, though. I think Bigsby, I guess that's one thing we didn't talk about. Definitely some worrying signs if you have been one of those people who I think have been talking up ATN a lot. Just felt like going to Bigsby in the short yard situation they had there, the only short yard situation, is pretty noteworthy. And I just think, too, this team has shown a lot of signals so far about not trusting ETN, overall, in terms of the pass protection. Like they brought in Hasty last year. To start the year, they were like, oh, James Robinson and ATN, you guys are both equal, basically. We'll treat you as such. Then they draft Bigsby. Then they bring in Dearness Johnson, or I guess they did that in some different sequence. Point being, they've shown a lot of signs that they don't love ATN as much as the fantasy community does. And I think that's not a great sign for ETN. So I get the love for Bigsby. I think that he's still appropriately priced, but still, I've not been a big ATN fan. I've adamantly, and hopefully adequately, gone against him on the stream a bunch, but I just do not really want to be there that much. All right, so we got a 2-2-4-1. Definitely need another receiver, but also could use a running back too. So I think we're pretty agnostic at this point. I think, honestly, nothing worrisome in terms of the usage for A-Chain. Doesn't correlate with anything we're doing here, but nothing else does either, really. I guess Lazard with Cleveland, but I'm not dying for an Allen Lazard share, you guys. So I will take Devin A-Chain here. Solid usage for him in the preseason. People might read into, I think Pete was talking about this on Best Ball Breakfast, but people might read into a little bit about Myles Gaskin going in front of him and him not getting that immediate work. But he is a rookie. That is going to be the case. It's more about the things they were using him, how he was lined up in different parts of the field, how he was able to show a little bit there of that burst. I think that's a positive thing for A-Chain. So to me, A-Chain, not as big of a boost in the preseason as I think Charbonnet showed on film, if again, not in the metrics. But I think A-Chain, to me, like he's got a role there. Wilson and Mostert of the vets, just takes one of them going down really for A-Chain to really solidify a role. But he also, I think, is in line to just get a lot of volume with what he did in college too. Era's probably told it's just a preseason game. Don't go there running around everywhere and get hurt before the season starts. I think you'd see that with how he played. Like he was definitely willing to take what was there. I think he's trying to do what he's coached to do, which is frankly what AR needs to do at this point. We can see the improvisational magic at some point down the line, But I think for right now, he needs to show Shane Steichen, hey, I'm the more explosive QB, but also I'm playing within your system. Like, you're telling me to run a screen here on 3rd and 17 when we're in the red zone. Fine. Like, let's do that. And I think that's what he needs to show the most. But I've told you guys on the stream before that I was a little bit worried that AR might not start, excuse me, until after the week 11 bye. But I think at this point, everything they're showing, I think, is really pointing towards Richardson being there in week 1. And I think, too, Minshew hasn't done himself favors to win the job. I don't think the way that he played in the preseason game is one thing, but overall, too, he's just been a little bit check downy, a little bit less aggressive downfield. And with how Shane Steichen likes to coach his teams, with what he did in Philly and where the changes were as he was an OC there, even too how he did with Justin Herbert his rookie year, that guy likes to go downfield. He likes to attack downfield. And if you're just kind of taking the easy stuff, I don't think that's Shane Steichen football. So I think bodes well for AR starting. And I still think, too, if we did see an announcement that AR was a week 1 starter, I think he still goes closer to this 90, 80 range, and maybe 70s, where Trevor Lawrence falls sometimes. Boy, the Trevor Lawrence people, though, got to be down bad. Like, still going at 79 in some drafts. And I still see so many people on social media who take Trevor Lawrence in the 40s. And it's like, dude, you are killing your entire portfolio if you take Trevor Lawrence in the 40s. I know we're jumping around a lot here, but there's just so much after a weekend of football that I feel like you have to talk about. So my apologies if I'm even more scattershot than usual with my speed talking through stream. Totally random. Do I have any Kyren Williams? I have very little, if any. Does have some recent good camp news, but I think I only have like 1 share of him. Yeah, I have 1 share of him in BBM and probably not much more. Maybe a little bit in the big board. No, that's all I have is 1 share of Kyren. I think there's some logic in taking him just because he is going to be used in the pass game. I do think that's been one, perhaps a weakness, at least perceived weakness of Cam Akers. But really, he's not going to take Cam Akers' role, I don't think. Cam Akers is just way more of a traditional bell cow back. So I think that part doesn't matter as much. But in terms of maybe being able to have a spike week, getting a few deep plays like they've been using him, getting downfield a little bit with the routes he's running for the Rams, I think that maybe there's some interest there. Zach Evans bags, though, I think you got to feel pretty bad about. So that's the one thing Kyren has. Like, he is, I think, the official handcuff / guy who would benefit. Zach Evans, I don't know if he can see the field if they want to go Kyren's way. 2, 3, 4, 1 here. Definitely needs some more talent. I think we take Darnell Mooney here for the correlation. So that feels pretty okay here. Fields and AR at QB, Bijan, Rashad White, Devin Achane at running back, a receiver, Adams, Cooper, Moore, Pittman, Mooney, and a tight end, Dallas Goedert. Feel like we could have gotten a little bit better at receiver. I'm not sure where that went wrong. I think reaching for Moore, reaching for Pittman a little bit probably hurt the overall portfolio at receiver. But we do have a better running back than I usually have. So I think we're doing okay in this draft. And I do like getting Fields and Moore together. Getting the Richardson, Devontae Adams correlation too also feels pretty nice. So I did some good things here. I think this is actually a pretty interesting team. It's just not a home run team, I don't think. But a very good team, hopefully. Of course I had to take H8. Of course I did, Chris. Is this Chris nothing? Oh, he's got Tua and he's got Waddle. Sorry, bud. Yeah. Good news is you got 2 more Miami running backs to go. But yeah, if there was a rookie running back and I do not have a lot of running backs, then sorry. But yes, Achane honestly wasn't even one of the times where I was like, I really got to get Achane today. He was just the one who was left standing because all you guys took running backs. Yeah, I could hopefully get Cole Kmet later. Hopefully. He does fall a lot, but sometimes people randomly like Cole Kmet and take him ahead of ADP when you have Fields. That's been the one thing I've observed when I've had Fields. But yeah, I think that I would love to get Kmet at a reasonable price tag, but we'll see what comes back to us. 2, 3, 5, 1. Algier obviously doesn't make sense for this team. I don't think you want to handcuff or handcuck even Bijan and Algier. Don't think that makes the most sense. All right, we need that second tight end. But Cole Kmet, I agree, we should probably wait on. God, there's no running backs here. Indianapolis, nothing coming up really either. This is a brutal spot for me. Oh, can we talk me into the handcuffing? I think we can. Yeah. Let's take Tyler Algier. I don't know what the logic is for it. I guess the logic is just that Atlanta might run so much that both guys can get there. We have a pretty big bet on Chicago. But I just feel like if Algier gets there, it's going to be really hard for Bijan to get there. Maybe some ping-ponging, I think, is what you could talk yourself into if you do that. But there was just nobody else I wanted coming up anytime soon. I would like to wait on Kmet. I would like to wait on Pierce. This is a hot take. Bob Tonyan better than Kmet. So the guy who they just signed off of basically nobody wanting him in free agency, who also didn't do much in Green Bay last year as a favorite target of Aaron Rodgers, who also did not get the money of Cole Kmet, is the better player than Cole Kmet. I think that's consigliere, man. Are you trying to make me rant here? I don't believe that's the case. Kmet, though, is like fine. He's not like any great shakes or anything. 0.14 EPA per target, perfectly fine. 11% receiving DVOA, perfectly fine. He's like a Jake Ferguson type, but that's enough. Being on a good offense, having big money. Tonyan is more likely to be dust than not, I think. Best case scenario is that you get a low-owned Bijan in a week 17 due to an Algier spike week. There we go. That's a good case by 10 minute. I think sometimes, like I do think I don't want an entire portfolio of running back ones with their RB2s, especially at the draft capital of Bijan going here. But that said, like I think if you get it 1 or 2, it is a unique build. The rest of the team's pretty good. And we also have such a strong Chicago correlation that I don't think it's a bad thing to have gotten these 2 running backs here. But I am doing a little bit of mental gymnastics to get there. So I would much rather never have a backup running back or even an ambiguous backfield, 2 backs from the same one. That's just my preferred way to draft. I'd rather you try to get it right than do the guesswork. I'm wondering if Kennedy Curse here, because he's reaching for everybody. Like, is him liking P. Ryan a good sign for that, for his shares overall? Jalen Warren going to 122 to this guy. Gainwell getting to 146. Like, this feels like a guy drafting off of recent headlines. So I'm wondering if maybe there's enough Warren. The usage for Warren is pretty good in the preseason too. I guess we didn't talk about him. I am just, should I push Kmet? Because I think I need Pierce more in this build. Yeah, I need Pierce a little bit more, I think. And if I don't get Kmet, then, we'll take Robert Tonyan, who's just as good. The team so far, Fields and AR at QB, at running back, Bijan, Rashad White, Devin Achane, Tyler Algier, at receiver, Adams, Cooper, DJ Moore, Michael Pittman, Darnell Mooney, and Alec Pierce, and a tight end, Dallas Goedert. I mean, I like this team. This team is like a very solid team. Doesn't have all the usual hits I like to play. Doesn't have Pickens and Watson and all that. But I think this team looks pretty good. And of course, MF Mitch here had to take Cole Kmet because he doesn't have a tight end. All right, so that's why he took Cole Kmet. Oh, well. Would have liked to have gotten Kmet. I think that Pierce is the better pick for this team with what we need at receiver. Because, like, how many times is Kmet going to beat out Goddard? I guess you could say the same thing for Pierce. How many times is Pierce going to make it over Adams and Cooper and Moore? I don't know. I feel like Pierce can make it over Moore, Cooper, and Adams a little bit more, especially in the games where Fields doesn't get there. I think that worked, but would have liked to have gotten Kmet at 161. Oh, well. All right, let's see what we do here. Again, Miller probably shouldn't be falling this much in rooms if he's going to be back in 1 to 2 weeks, but it is the same knee that he hurt again, so that's not great for him. But let's see. Do we need a receiver more at this point? I don't think so. Could say Cleveland again. I think let's just get the value 5th running back in here with Kendre Miller. And this will probably be the end of my picks at running back. But again, with QB, Fields and Anthony Richardson. Running back, Bijan, Rashad White, Devin Achane, Tyler Algier, and Kendre Miller. A receiver, Adams, Cooper, DJ Moore, Michael Pittman, Darnell Mooney, Alec Pierce, and a tight end, Dallas Goedert. So we need to get a late tight end at some point. I think this might be a Kylan Granson share for me with Indianapolis. Still no Jelani Woods out there. Granson, again, firmly entrenched with the first team. Guys like Ricky Seals-Jones are playing with a second team in Indianapolis because they've got nobody left at tight end despite having 9 tight ends on the roster. So I think this will be a build where we try to get a share of Kylan Granson late at tight end. Colts play Falcons 2 week 16. Oh, good. Good to know. Yeah, I know the Colts have one of the better playoff schedules. I remember that from Brick on the Lowell show that he does with Pete, talking about the overall odds being higher for the over-unders for the Colts in week 15 through 17. So bodes well for AR. Indoor games plus, not bad matchups. I think obviously there's a lot to love for AR, but I think the playoff schedule for AR is definitely one of those reasons why. Like Mac Hollins is my last pick. Mac gets a big QB downgrade, but he's bulked up and might be the short route guy. Man, I just don't know if there's enough to eat in that Atlanta situation. I think for my build, Mac Hollins actually might make sense because we do have Chicago, we have the Atlanta guys, but not London and not Pitts. So I think we can make a bet on Mac Hollins here. But I think the Mac Hollins team has gotten a little bit too frothy for me. Just the guy that obviously showing up jacked is always something that people note on social media, as again, OG1 Kenobi did here. But it's also that I think if you're betting on London and Pitts at all, it's just like there's not going to be a ping-ponging of spike weeks, I think, between those three guys. But I think if you're not betting on London and Pitts, like you're basically saying that these guys are just kind of leveling out and Mac is taking enough of a share over the course of the entire year. But if Mac's could go in like the 16th, which I've seen in some drafts, I think it's a little bit much for Mac. He showed a ceiling last year, but that was like a weird situation. In Atlanta, I guess maybe he can show a ceiling if one of London or Pitts goes down. But like the running backs are always going to be the thing in Atlanta. I could take him in this build, but I just don't think he works for every build. Hollins just seems super confident and should be number 2 receiver there aside from Bijan and Pitts. He's not better than Drake London, to be clear. He is not, unless we're saying that London's the number 1 and then Bijan and Pitts. But then if you're saying he should be the number 2 receiver there aside from Bijan and Pitts, you've now listed 3 guys ahead of Mac Hollins. I don't know, man. I don't know about him being super confident either being a thing that I would matter too much, but it's August. Your takes matter and are as valid as mine. We'll find out in the season, as we always say here. Okay. 2561. Definitely could use another receiver or 2. Chicago has some that go late. So nobody here is like a crazy correlation. We'll take Rashid Shaheed just for the micro correlation with Rachaad White. I think in this kind of build too, Rashid Shaheed doesn't have to do much. Just has to give us 1 or 2 spike weeks throughout the year because we do have Adams, we do have Cooper, we do have Moore, we have Pittman. Like we have floor guys. So let's take some ceiling guys, I think. And honestly, New Orleans looked pretty good over the weekend. Carr looked sharp. Jameis looked sharp relatively. I thought from what I saw of Jake Haener, he looked okay. And I think he's a guy that's, boy, this is fucking esoteric. Jake Haener, Clayton Tune, Aiden O'Connell, those guys are all the tier 2 QBs who actually are kind of okay. And all of them kind of have a pathway to getting time if things go weird, probably more contingent value. But still, like I think that those guys all showed what I thought they would show this weekend and probably a little bit more, honestly, for like O'Connell. O'Connell apparently has looked very bad in practice. Some of the advanced analytics for him were not great. He's good in terms of the volume metrics, but overall not, terribly great in terms of EPA per dropback numbers. But I thought O'Connell looked like a solid NFL player from what I saw. Definitely fed the guys he had to feed, had a few drops too that hurt him. All those guys, I think, playing against third teams and whatever. Yeah, but second teams. Tuning in on my lunch break, we got the AR jersey on. Love to see it. All right. I appreciate it. Look, I'm glad to have one bit that works, and that is me putting on an AR jersey. So, all right. 2571. Do we actually take Robert Tonyan here at some point? Is that the thing? Definitely need one more receiver. No, I should do I have 7 receivers? I'm going to go, Isaiah Likely here just to get some Baltimore in the mix for a little bit of a bet on Miami. I also think this might be a 3 tight end build, mostly out of luxury. But I think Isaiah Likely that's the only guy who I really want to bring it back with. Didn't want another running back. And I think that for the Miami correlation, I would like to have something from Baltimore just because I think that game's going to go off. And I have enough of the main characters in Baltimore, Miami. Taking a Likely here, I think makes sense for me. Scott's a Falcons fan, so he's optimistic. There we go. That makes more sense. If you're a Falcons fan, honestly, I thought this last year and they fell short a little bit, just not enough weapons, not enough guys on defense, especially. I think they're probably my pick to win the South. I don't think Tampa Bay is very live to repeat. I think we talked about it here. They're a bottom 5 Super Bowl odds team. That's pretty bad. Panthers should be a little bit improved, though I kind of think moving from Steve Wilkes to Frank Reich is regressive in terms of what they're going to get out of that defense. But still, they've got young guys on both sides of the ball, so they're there. But I would say, and the Saints are okay, always live to win the South, I feel like any year. But I think this is probably the Falcons' year to win it. I guess maybe next year a little bit more so. But Pitts and London coming into their own. It just comes down to Ritter. Is Ritter going to give them enough? And I guess that's a pretty big looming question. Because if Ritter's not their guy, I would rather see him tank this year and try to get Caleb Williams or Drake May. Because that's the only way that team hits that full apex, like having a rookie QB who's actually good. So I think it's a make or break year for Ritter. Yeah, the whole division does seem like it's rebuilding. I would agree with that. But it's an interesting year. Like, and I like divisions like that too, because it really does give you a couple outs. Again, we're trying to build around winning teams. You're trying to build around teams that score a lot of points. Certainly the Falcons are a team, if they're winning the South, like they're probably going to score more points than you would think, especially with the combo of the run game and hopefully maybe a little bit more for the pass game. But also same thing for the Bucks. Like if you're going to draft in these NFC South teams, I think you're able to kind of make the case that it's like, hey, they're the division winner. Maybe their defense sucks too, so they have to put up a little bit more offensively. I think that's certainly live. Though Atlanta, the way that Atlanta wins the South is probably that defense with how much they spent on it. That defense has to be a little bit better. And then the offense kind of controls the clock, I think, is their pathway to victory. Tank Dell, by the way, going to the 15th again. This happened on our Friday stream as well. I think Tank's a fine pick. There's a lot of steam for Tank Dell. Like, should he be going ahead of Rashid Shaheed? I guess Shaheed's hurt right now. I think this is just like injured guy versus recency bias, kind of going in heavy. But this guy is stacking up Houston, so I guess that makes some sense. Or he's trying to. Stacking Houston late, if nothing else. Took Roshan at 149. That's kind of crazy. There's too many tanks, I got to be honest. There's one thing. Tank Bigsby, Tank Dell. And neither of them are really tanks, if we're being honest. Like Bigsby is not a crazy power back or anything. He's a better power back than ATN, but he wasn't a great power back in college. Some of that was because Auburn was so bad. Tank Dell, though, by the way, is like way less of a tank. Like he's more of a, he should be like fighter jet Dell with how he plays, just getting open into space. He is not very tank-like. But let's go here. Let's see what we can do. Just take Cordero to complete all the Atlanta stuff. People like Chase Claypool. I like Tyler Scott a little bit more as a target, but Chase Claypool can have a bounce back year. And we have this bet on Atlanta, Chicago here. So let's take Chase Claypool. And we might do a little bit of a Robert Tonyan. Consigliere might have sold me. I think I drove him out of chat with pushing back on his take, but out of necessity, I might have to take Robert Tonyan here. Team so far, Justin Fields and Anthony Richardson at QB, running back, Bijan, Rashad White, Devin Achane, Tyler Algier, and Kendre Miller at running back. Honestly, maybe you could use a 6 running back, but it feels weird to take 6 running backs when you took one as early as Bijan. At receiver, Devontae Adams, Amari Cooper, DJ Moore, Michael Pittman, Darnell Mooney, Alec Pierce, Rashid Shaheed, Chase Claypool, and a tight end, Dallas Goedert and Isaiah Likely. I might not go the third tight end. I might not. I do think there's one player who I'm surprised has not gotten drafted after his preseason usage. Free and 11 TDs 1 year. This is the tight end way. All right, let's put it up. Well, I don't want to ruin who I'm thinking about besides this. Here, I'm putting Tonyan in the queue, and let's see what DC Fantasy does, and I'll put one more player in the queue. And we're going to decide collectively. Okay. Is this a Michael Wilson team or a Robert Tonyan team? Wilson would correlate with Goddard, give us one more young guy who, again, was running with the first team, obviously without Marquise Brown over the weekend. I'm kind of leaning Michael Wilson. I just don't think Tonyan's going to give me enough spike weeks. But if there is a guy at tight end who can give you a lot of spike weeks, it's Tonyan, like 2 touchdown Tonyan. That's the nickname we call him. All right, Wilson easily. Wilson, done. All right, Michael Wilson. All right, so the final team here, Justin Fields and AR at QB. At running back, Bijan Robinson, Rashad White, Devin Achane, Tyler Algier, so the handcuff that I normally don't like, but we did the gymnastics to get there. Kendre Miller, Devontae Adams, Amari Cooper, DJ Moore, Michael Pittman, Darnell Mooney, Alec Pierce, Rashid Shaheed, Chase Claypool, all these guys coming on down. Chase Claypool and Michael Wilson at receiver. And then a tight end, we're going to rely on Dallas Goedert pretty heavily. And we have Isaiah Likely as contingent value, I guess, mostly. But there we go. I think we are so confident who the tight end this OC will want is. Getsy had him in at Green Bay. All right. I think you can't argue, though, there's a regime there who paid Cole Kmet a lot of money. But Consigliere, has his convictions. I'm not going to be mad at that. All right, guys. So as I mentioned, in 20 minutes, I'm going to go join our pal Bindles on his stream. Let me see if I could find this link, actually, because I'll drop it in the chat. So if you want some more drafts, I would say come join over there. Support guys trying to grind out new channels. It's always a thing here. All Let me get Bindle's link. All right. This is taking forever, guys, but I wasn't planning on dropping the link in the chat. All right, so come join our pal Bindles in 20 minutes on his channel. I'll be on there. Of course, I'll be back tomorrow drafting more teams with Pete on his channel. Then we'll come back on the Splash Play channel, do some drafts there. Of course, follow me at Chris Spags. Make sure to use the promo code SPLASH on Underdog to double your deposit up to $100. The best way to get yourself some more entries, best way to build a bankroll, all of that, and a great way to support Splash Play too. So please go check that out over there. And of course, subscribe to the channel, hit the like button, leave a comment down below. I appreciate all of you choosing to spend some time with me on this channel, but of course, you could spend a lot more with me here. 24 days until kickoff. We will have 5 days a week of draft streams on here. Again, appreciate you guys hanging out here. Go join me and Bindles in a little bit. I'll see you guys soon. Enjoy your days. Good luck.